They say legends never fade. They say that great music outlives its maker. But what happens when the legend himself begins to doubt? When the grace behind the keys trembles? When the man whose songs once echoed through stadiums and speakers now whispers that he's simply unsteady? He built his empire on melody and rhythm, crafting songs that anchored generations. He filled arenas, sold out residencies, saw adoring fans from New York to Tokyo singing. No, living every word. His piano told stories of love and loss, joy and longing, youth and memory. His voice defined eras. But now, at 76, the reflection in the mirror looks different. The hands that once danced across ivory keys feel the weight of something more fragile. And the whispers, rumors, concerns, hushed speculation, have grown into questions. What if the man who brought us Piano Man and Uptown Girl, who spent decades commanding stages and hearts, is no longer the same? This is the story of a legend confronting mortality. This is the story of Billy Joel, not as rock star but as human. Soon, you'll hear the truth he couldn't hide any longer. Billy Joel's story begins not on a glittering stage, nor in the roar of sold-out arenas, but in a quiet suburb of Long Island. Born on May 9, 1949, in the Bayside neighborhood of Queens, New York, he was a child of contrasts. A boy who would grow to personify the restless spirit of rock, yet who carried with him the nuanced sensibility of classical music. His father, Howard Joel, was a classical pianist of German descent, while his mother, Rosalind, instilled in him a curiosity for language, literature, and storytelling. Music, however, was always inevitable. The piano in the Joel household wasn't just an instrument, it was a portal into another life. Young Billy gravitated toward it with an almost obsessive devotion. While other children chased baseballs or comic books, he pursued scales and melodies, often losing himself for hours in the black and white keys. Yet, his early years were not without friction. The divorce of his parents and the tension of a sometimes turbulent home life seeded in him a sensitivity that would later surface in lyrics brimming with raw emotion. In his teenage years, Billy was drawn to rock and roll with a fervor, absorbing the sounds of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and Ray Charles. By the age of 15, he was already performing in local bands, experimenting with songwriting and learning the hard truths of the music business. It was during these formative years that Joel honed his craft, finding the balance between classical technique and contemporary rebellion, a duality that would define his career. After high school, Billy immersed himself in New York's music scene. He played in clubs, honing his stage presence and learning to command audiences, small at first, then larger, each performance a rehearsal for destiny. The 1971 release of Cold Spring Harbor, though flawed due to technical production issues, hinted at his potential. Industry insiders began to take notice, and despite early setbacks, the trajectory was clear: a star was rising. By the mid-1970s, Billy Joel was no longer just a talented musician, he was a storyteller of everyday life. His songs reflected the hopes, struggles, and contradictions of a generation seeking identity. He became more than a performer. He became a voice for the countless listeners who saw themselves mirrored in his lyrics. From Long Island's quiet streets to the bustling heart of Manhattan, Joel's journey was a testament to talent, tenacity, and timing. The 1970s were Billy Joel's proving ground, and he proved spectacularly. With the release of Piano Man in 1973, Joel captured the public imagination in a way few artists do. The title track became an anthem for dreamers, loners, and barroom philosophers, ordinary people whose lives were imbued with subtle heroism. Joel's gift lay in his ability to weave narrative and melody into songs that felt intimate yet universal, simple yet profound. Following Piano Man, a succession of albums cemented his place in the pantheon of rock legends. The Stranger, 1977, exploded onto the scene with hits like Just the Way You Are, Movin' Out, Anthony's Song, and Only the Good Die Young. The album wasn't just commercially successful, it resonated on a cultural level. Billy Joel had transformed from a talented musician into a household name. His lyrics reflected both the grandeur of life's aspirations and the melancholy of its disappointments. The 1980s marked a period of prolific creativity and ever-growing fame. Albums like 52nd Street and An Innocent Man brought platinum sales, chart-topping singles, and a sound that could traverse genres, from jazz-infused pop to soulful ballads. Hits like Uptown Girl and Tell Her About It showed a playful, almost whimsical side of Joel, proving his versatility as an artist. Central to his legend was Madison Square Garden. Joel's relationship with the iconic arena became symbiotic. He elevated its reputation while it solidified his status as a New York institution. By the early 2000s, he was performing residencies, often multiple shows in a row, each a masterclass in musicianship and showmanship. Audiences knew that when Joel walked onto that stage, every note, every lyric, every pause carried weight. Decades of experience distilled into a singular, unforgettable performance. Yet, Behind the spectacle was an unrelenting work ethic. Joel's life on the road, the intensity of touring, and the constant demand for new material began to take its toll. While the world saw triumph, the man behind the music faced a quieter, more private struggle: the pressure of sustaining brilliance, the fear of irrelevance, and the creeping awareness that time, as relentless as any critic, waits for no one. It was during this peak, amid global recognition and critical acclaim, that the first whispers of vulnerability emerged, subtle, almost imperceptible. Fans sensed them in interviews, in performances tinged with fatigue, in moments where the once effortless piano runs required conscious effort. But even then, Billy Joel's legend shone brighter than any doubt. He was, in every sense, at the top of his world, a musician whose influence stretched far beyond charts and awards, touching lives through the simple power of song. By the 1980s and 90s, Billy Joel had become more than a musician. He had become a living institution, a force of nature whose name alone could fill arenas. Yet with fame came an expectation of consistency. Every show, every album, every public appearance a reflection of the legend that fans had grown to idolize. He became, in many ways, a machine, churning out performances that were polished, precise, and infused with his unmistakable style. Touring, once a thrilling adventure, became both a calling and a burden. Cities blurred together in a haze of hotel rooms, stage lights, and set lists. From New York to Los Angeles, London to Tokyo, Joel's days and nights were dictated by the rigorous demands of a musician at the peak of his powers. His hands, once nimble and effortless across the keys, carried the weight of decades of relentless practice and performance. The piano, which had been his sanctuary, now bore the strain of a rigorous schedule. Despite the grueling routine, Joel remained extraordinarily prolific. Hits continued to flow: We Didn't Start the Fire, The Longest Time, Big Shot. Each song a reflection of his acute observation of life, culture, and human emotion. Yet even amid the triumphs, cracks were forming beneath the surface. The very machine that had propelled him to global superstardom also demanded everything he had to give, and more. Behind the curtain, Joel wrestled with the psychological toll of fame. Endless interviews, media scrutiny, and public expectation weighed heavily. Fans often assumed that the man on stage, whose energy never seemed to falter, was impervious. But there were moments, fleeting, subtle, that revealed the exhaustion, the anxiety, the sense that no matter how perfect the performance, it might never be enough. It was a tension between artistry and endurance, a balancing act few could comprehend, even fewer could endure. In retrospect, this period marked a turning point. While the world saw success, Joel himself was beginning to grapple with the first inklings of vulnerability. A recognition that the body, no matter how disciplined or gifted, has limits, and that time spares no one, not even a legend. Even as audiences cheered, Joel's life behind the scenes was marked by subtle, unsettling shifts. The energy that had defined his early career began to fluctuate. Tours were planned months in advance, yet more frequently, Joel found himself contending with fatigue, stiff joints, and moments of uncertainty at the piano. Friends and colleagues noticed pauses, small hesitations in performances that once flowed seamlessly. The pressures of sustaining a career at the top were immense. Each album, each tour, each media appearance was a performance of not just music but endurance. Joel had to maintain the persona of invincible virtuoso, while quietly confronting the physical and mental costs of decades spent in the spotlight. Health concerns, once minor, began to accumulate. Exhaustion became chronic, stress increasingly palpable, and the realization that the years of relentless work had taken a toll grew harder to ignore. By the late 2010s, those close to Joel noticed changes more pronounced than before. The subtle tremor in his hands during rehearsals. The uncharacteristic pauses during live performances. The private expressions of concern over memory, coordination, and focus. Fans may have assumed it was age catching up, but those who knew him recognized that something more specific, something medical, was quietly emerging. Yet, Billy Joel was never one to surrender publicly. The man who had faced record label pressures, media scrutiny, and the weight of iconic expectations was determined to remain strong, to continue performing, and to protect his privacy. But cracks, however carefully concealed, eventually become visible. The music, the tours, and the public persona could only hide so much. Even the most formidable legends are human, and the first whispers of vulnerability were impossible to suppress entirely. This period of subtle struggle would foreshadow a revelation that few could have anticipated. The same hands that had created timeless melodies, the same mind that had crafted lyrics with uncanny precision, were beginning to confront limitations that were as shocking as they were inevitable. Fans, critics, and the media would soon witness a truth that had long been suspected but never openly confirmed. A truth that Billy Joel himself would, finally, acknowledge. For decades, Billy Joel lived many lives at once, songwriter, pianist, global rock star, New York legend. But in 2025, at age 76, something changed in a way that couldn't be hidden by melody or stage lights. The change began quietly, almost imperceptibly. Subtle balance issues, altered hearing and vision, small missteps that backstage staff assumed were fatigue or the toll of a long career. Only it wasn't fatigue. It was something else, something no one saw coming. In May 2025, Billy Joel publicly announced that he had been diagnosed with normal pressure hydrocephalus, NPH, a neurological condition in which excess cerebrospinal fluid accumulates in the brain's ventricles. Over time, that fluid buildup can compress brain tissue and disrupt neural pathways, leading to symptoms that can affect hearing, vision, balance, walking, thinking, and even bladder control. The revelation struck like lightning. The man whose fingers had glided effortlessly across piano keys for half a century was suddenly confronted with fragility. In his official statement, Joel explained that recent concert performances had exacerbated his condition, causing problems with hearing, vision, and balance that could no longer be ignored. As a result, he cancelled all his upcoming concerts, from North America to the UK and beyond. Every ticket was voided, every date erased, for the foreseeable future. His team announced that he would undergo specialized physical therapy, and under his doctor's guidance, he was advised to refrain from performing while he recovered. That word, recovery, offered a glimmer of hope. Because NPH, while serious, is sometimes treatable. Medical professionals often secure relief by draining excess fluid, through a shunt or similar intervention, followed by therapy. Many patients, especially when diagnosed early, show significant improvement. But for fans and for Billy Joel himself, this felt like a crossroads. The man who had clocked thousands of live show hours, whose name was nearly synonymous with New York nightlife and global arenas, was stopping, mid-tour, mid-life. The reality hung in stark contrast to his legend. Night after night, fans heard of cancellations. Refunds rolled out. Social media timelines filled with disbelief, worry, grief, and hope. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, Billy Joel sat with a diagnosis that few understood and many might still misconceive, a complex brain condition, now laid bare. This was not the end, but it was a moment that demanded reckoning. Fame, legacy, and the myth of the immortal rock star suddenly clashed with frailty, fragility, and the quiet ache of human vulnerability. The announcement didn't just shake the concert world, it rattled hearts. Around the globe, fans responded with shock and sorrow. Social media filled with get-well-soon messages, concert photos from decades past, memories of favorite shows, and disbelief that their piano man might never perform again. In the days after, Billy Joel himself tried to calm fears. On a public interview, he said softly, "I feel fine. My balance sucks. It's like being on a boat." He added with weary honesty, "They keep referring to what I have as a brain disorder, so it sounds a lot worse than what I'm feeling." That honesty brought both relief and concern. Relief, because the man was still lucid, still self-aware, still capable of speaking his truth. Concern, because the condition he faced, NPH, can mimic other serious ailments. It can cause memory problems, slow movement, confusion. For someone whose life had depended on precise coordination, musical memory, and stage control, the stakes felt impossibly high. Media outlets and medical commentators scrambled to explain NPH, what it is, how it develops, what treatments exist. Some offered cautious optimism. When caught and treated early, outcomes can be good. Others issued sober warnings. For a man who had spent decades under stage lights and constant touring pressure, recovery might be complicated. Friends, colleagues, and family became part of a delicate chorus of support. Love, concern, hope. Fellow musicians, longtime fans, journalists, all expressed empathy and fear, but also admiration for a man brave enough to admit vulnerability. Many noted that in a world that glorifies youth and invincibility, Billy Joel's decision to step back felt like an act of integrity. On online forums, one fan wrote simply, "I hope he's okay." Another, "He gave us decades of music. Now it's our turn to give him patience and love." The outpouring wasn't just about concerts, it was about humanity, about gratitude, about letting a legend rest. For many, the diagnosis brought not just sorrow, but a renewed admiration. Admiration for a man who, even after decades of fame, could still face illness with dignity, and for a legacy that transcended hits and stage lights. A reminder that even legends are human. After decades of commanding stages with confidence and precision, Billy Joel faced a moment unlike any before. The world had watched him conquer arenas, charm audiences with his wit and piano mastery, and chronicle life's ordinary and extraordinary moments through song. Yet in 2025, for the first time in public, he spoke not as a legend, but as a man confronting vulnerability. In an interview broadcast globally, Joel's tone was measured yet tinged with the subtle weight of fear. "I've played thousands of shows," he admitted, "and never once did I worry that I couldn't play the next song. Now, sometimes I pause. Sometimes I wonder if my hands will do what I want them to." He described how simple tasks, walking across a stage, turning pages of sheet music, could feel foreign, almost unmanageable. It was a revelation that stunned fans not because they doubted his talent, but because they had never witnessed the human behind the myth. Joel spoke openly about the anxiety of performing while his balance faltered, about the frustration of cognitive lapses in moments where memory had always been his greatest ally. "I've always written songs from the heart," he said softly, "but now even remembering a lyric can feel like an effort." Yet in his honesty, there was also grace. Joel did not allow fear to dominate his voice. He spoke about treatment options with cautious optimism, emphasizing that early intervention often leads to significant improvement. He acknowledged the uncertainty of recovery but refused to let it define him. "I'm still Billy Joel," he said. "I still have music. I still have stories to tell. The world may see a pause, but I see possibilities." Fans, critics, and colleagues responded to Joel's candor with admiration. He had always sung of human struggle, of heartbreak, loss, and resilience, but now he embodied it himself. His transparency offered a rare window into the fragility of even the greatest among us. The Piano Man, the New York icon, the global rock legend, was no longer untouchable. And in that vulnerability, his humanity shone brighter than ever. The diagnosis and public acknowledgement of NPH marked a profound turning point, not only for Billy Joel, but for the countless fans who had grown up with his music as a soundtrack to life. For Joel himself, it was a time of reflection, adaptation, and cautious hope. Physical therapy became a daily ritual, exercises designed to retrain his body, restore coordination, and rebuild confidence. Each session was a reminder that progress was incremental, that resilience was both mental and physical. The implications for his music were immediate yet nuanced. Concert tours were postponed indefinitely, but writing, composing, and recording remained possible. Joel began spending more time at the piano in solitude, exploring melodies without the pressure of public expectation. Some songs were revisitations of classics, others tentative explorations of new ideas, a musician navigating the delicate line between memory and creativity. For fans, the pause was a moment of reckoning. The man who had seemed indestructible was, in fact, mortal. Yet mortality did not diminish the impact of his legacy. The music endured, timeless and unyielding. Piano Man, The Stranger, 52nd Street, An Innocent Man, each song remained a monument to his genius, proof that artistry can survive even when the artist faces fragility. Joel himself reflected on the paradox of fame and vulnerability. Decades of public adoration, relentless touring, and media scrutiny had created an image of invincibility. The NPH diagnosis forced a confrontation with the simple truth: even legends age, even legends falter, even legends need care. And in that realization, he found a new kind of strength: humility, patience, and gratitude. The uncertainty of the future remained. No one could predict exactly how fully he would recover, or what his performances might look like in the years to come. But hope persisted, fueled by medical progress, the support of family, and the resilience that had defined his life from Long Island piano lessons to Madison Square Garden triumphs. In a way, this chapter of his life was a reminder that Billy Joel's legacy was not only in his hits, but in his humanity, the courage to admit fear, the willingness to slow down, and the choice to continue creating, even in the face of vulnerability. For a man whose music had long inspired millions, the true power of his story now lay in his own example: to endure, adapt, and keep playing the song of life, one careful note at a time. Fame is often mistaken for invincibility. For decades, Billy Joel existed in a realm where applause masked fatigue, where stadium lights concealed exhaustion, and where the expectation of perfection left no room for human error. Yet 2025 brought a quiet, undeniable lesson: even legends are not immune to the frailty of the human body. As Joel navigated his diagnosis and recovery, he began to reflect deeply on the intersection of fame, art, and mortality. The applause and the accolades, while affirming, had always been external validations. They could not prevent the gradual wear of decades of performance, nor shield him from the sudden, stark reality of a neurological condition. Vulnerability, once a private matter, had become public, reframing how he understood himself and how the world perceived him. In conversations with close friends and interviews with select journalists, Joel spoke candidly about the duality of his life: the extraordinary highs of global recognition juxtaposed with the private struggles that accompanied age, illness, and self-doubt. He described the emotional weight of knowing fans expect a flawless performance, while internally contending with a body and mind that sometimes falter. Yet within this reflection was a quiet beauty. Joel's humanity, once largely invisible behind his legend, became unmistakable. Mortality, the certainty that time does not pause, was no longer a distant abstraction but a lived reality. His story became a reminder that even the most celebrated artists, whose music defines generations, must reconcile with vulnerability. And in doing so, Joel demonstrated a profound courage, the ability to embrace imperfection, to acknowledge fear, and to continue moving forward despite uncertainty. Fame, Joel realized, is transient, artistry is eternal. Recognition fades, crowds disperse, and albums may fall out of rotation. But the lessons learned from confronting one's own limits, and the grace displayed in doing so, endure as part of a legacy far deeper than charts or ticket sales. Billy Joel's music has always transcended the physical stage. From intimate bars to the grandeur of Madison Square Garden, his songs have traveled across time, touching lives in ways no concert, no tour, and no accolade could fully measure. Now, with his touring indefinitely paused, the question arose: what remains if the Piano Man never steps onto a stage again? The answer is simple, yet profound: everything. His songs, imbued with storytelling, emotion, and craftsmanship, exist independently of his presence. Piano Man continues to resonate in bars around the world. Vienna still teaches patience and reflection. Scenes from an Italian restaurant evokes nostalgia, longing, and connection. His melodies have become memory itself, a soundtrack to personal lives, collective experiences, and cultural history. For Joel personally, this period of enforced pause became an opportunity for introspection. Without the demands of touring, he immersed himself in revisiting old compositions, arranging unreleased pieces, and exploring new musical ideas from the sanctuary of his home studio. Creativity, he realized, was not dependent on applause or schedules. It lived in the quiet moments, in reflection, in the act of making music for its own sake. His legacy, therefore, is not only in sold-out shows or platinum albums, but in the enduring human connections forged by his music. Songs become heirlooms, passed from generation to generation, carrying memory and meaning. Even without live performances, Billy Joel's influence permeates culture, inspiring aspiring musicians, comforting listeners in solitude, and immortalizing moments of shared human emotion. In this way, Joel's story offers a lesson broader than fame or illness. Music endures, artists endure through their work, and legacy is not measured by stage appearances but by the resonance left in the hearts of those touched by the art. The Piano Man may pause physically, but his voice, melodic, heartfelt, indelible, continues to play across time and space, reminding the world that some songs are immortal, and some legends, even when human, never truly fade.